Hey everybody, before I get started, I just want to mention a couple of ways that you can engage with me on a more personal level. I have a few avenues set up and I keep focusing on one, and I figured why don't I make a short little video talking about all of them real quick before we get into these episodes. So first thing, Patreon. There's a link in the episode description, in every episode description to the Patreon, as well as a video on the feed called Major Announcement that has all the details of what each tier offers and how much they cost. I implore you to check that out. I offer a lot of cool shit for my patrons. Second thing, the Discord channel. There's also a Discord link in the episode description and in every episode description. I have multiple channels set up there for each show that I'm covering, and it's a great way to just engage with me. I have a channel set up for MMA talk as well. I'm a big MMA fan, so if you're an MMA fan, you can check that out as well. There's a link to the Discord in the episode description. And then lastly, the Facebook and Twitter. Social media. Follow me on there. I post news on there. When I say news, I mean like, hey, I'm stopping covering this show. Hey, I'm starting covering this show. Let me know what you think about this. I do live watches of things on Facebook where like I'll check in and say I'm watching so-and-so show, and then I'll like live comment while I'm watching it, and that'll be cool if maybe you watch that show too and you want to watch along with me, or you're watching it later and you will see my thoughts, which are usually pretty entertaining because I'm usually pretty high when I'm writing them. So check out all those links in each episode description, and let's talk about this episode. Peace.
One mic, one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. One mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. One mic. One mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, and today I'm here to talk about Season 4, Episode 8, the season and series finale of HBO's Barry, simply entitled, Wow. First, I want to start by apologizing for how late I'm getting this video out to the 17 of you who are going to watch it. I had a interesting experience with this episode, and I want to talk a little bit about the controversy surrounding the episode title. You're probably like, what controversy? Exactly. As all 17 of you who probably follow my Barry coverage know, I mirror the way I write the episode titles to what I have seen given to me by HBO. This for, I think, all of this season, all of last season. I think that like the episode titles were on and off, I think, for the first two, but for the vast majority, if not all, of the Season 3 and Season 4 episodes, the titles have been entirely lowercase. So when I open HBO to watch the finale, I see wow, and I see it fucking capitalized. I said, fuck, this episode about to slap. This shit about to go crazy. Fucking Bill Hader's about to go the fuck off. So then when the episode, which I'm going to talk about, which I thought was great. At the time, though, when I first watched it, I was like, well, shit, he didn't do anything crazy at all. And it was almost like I kind of left away with a slightly underwhelmed feeling, and not because of anything that went wrong, but just because of my expectations based on the capitalization, well, and also the fact that he chose the word wow, but then also the fact that it was capitalized. Come to find out, it turns out that when HBO turned from HBO Max to just Max, and you got the new app, Max capitalized all of the episode titles. So it meant jack shit. And I made a whole, like, it completely impacted my viewing of the episode, the fact that Max fucked up the capitalization of the episode titles. Like, that's wild to me. But that shows, I think when you couple it with the whole controversy with them just putting creators and then not just listing names as opposed to giving credit to everyone for what they actually did, it just shows how little of a fuck they give about these creators. The not just their respect and their title for what it is that they made, but in the case of the capitalization, even like their desires. Like, you don't just randomly say like, yeah, fuck it, lowercase all the fucking letters. Like, for whatever reason, Bill Hader probably wanted it that way. He probably wrote it whatever way he wrote it in the script. And they're just like, yeah, fuck it. Let's just write them like they're fucking headlines in the newspaper. And I don't know. And when you do that, 99% of the time, who gives a shit? That's how the titles are anyway. But this 1% of the time when they fucked it up, it actually impacted my experience of watching the episode. And granted that no one else probably not no one else, but very few people probably noticed that. Very few people were probably impacted. But you're probably like, yo, can you talk about the fucking episode? Here's the point. The point is that knowing how I can be, I went back and I was like, let me watch the episode again just to make sure, it's the finale of Barry. I need to give it a fair shake. I can't let my my experience not being, thinking that I was going to get like a Ronnie Lilly type episode. I need to like let that go and watch it again and give it a fair shake. And I'm glad I did. I'm getting into talking about the episode now, because while this episode didn't have anything particularly wild or over the top, it wasn't a Ronnie Lilly episode, it had really poignant moments and fitting endings for its characters that I really enjoyed. So let's get into it. For example, right at the beginning of the episode, we get Hank calling Fuchs about having Sally and John. And I don't know about you guys, but I thought Stephen Root did such a great job in this scene. Like, if you're not paying close attention, or if the show hadn't properly fleshed out the nature of Barry and Fuchs' relationship, you might think that Fuchs is going to Hank's hideout to get Barry at the end of that scene. But Root does a great job in this scene of showing on his face the complete and total mental audible he had to call when he found out that Harry had that Hank had Barry's son. Harry is like Barry and then Henry, Hank. This is a guy though that this is a guy being Barry that Fuchs is looked at as a son. He's protected him, and even though they might have beef, he likely sees Barry as a family to him, as a son to him, and he can't just sit idly by while Hank takes things too far. And another great scene comes here soon after, where Barry's gonna acquire all the guns that he needs to go save his family, and he walks into what looks like a smaller version of like a Walmart or something like that. Not like a neighborhood grocery store, but like I said, like an all-purpose kind of superstore, but maybe not just as big as Walmart. And demand guns in a way that only someone who plans on killing a lot of people would ever ask for guns. And we then cut to him leaving the store. And he's leaving the store, he's got the gun strapped to his back. He's walking with very much purpose, these guns strapped to his back, through the toy aisle, no less, and out of the store. Everyone's completely unbothered, even though he's very clearly about to go kill people. And there's a number of ways we could look at this scene and discuss what it has to say about gun culture in the country. But for me, the wildest aspect of this scene is the fact that we, as a country, are conditioned to allow Barry's behavior. Like, no one would have felt okay stepping in to stop Barry, because that's his right, even though he's very clearly about to go on a murderous rampage. And I just think that's really sad. No one even paid him any attention. They didn't even feel the need to restrain themselves and stop themselves from stopping him, because they probably didn't even notice, because we are so conditioned to be accepting of anything involving guns and to just let it all go, or we hate freedom or some stupid shit like that. So I don't know, I just thought that was a really great way of showcasing our general approach to guns. This kind of we just aren't comfortable saying anything, even when it's obvious, because all the shit going on. But let me use this opportunity to talk about the one thing that I didn't like. And I'll acknowledge that it's plausible and the evidence is there for it, but the part with the story that Moss, the DA, and Gene's son have now come to believe about Gene, didn't that seem kind of silly to you guys? Moss has been so brilliant that he's been scary the entire time we've known him. Then in the last episode of the whole thing, he just gets kind of dumb and believes this. I want to call it a ridiculous theory. It's I get that it's probably meant for us to be like, no, you had it right the first time, Moss. Now you're wrong. Oh, no. But it's kind of I just feel like they kind of undercut what they've built this guy out to be. I've looked at him as a guy, he's this military guy, he's scary, you get him in his garage, he's gonna get whatever the fuck information he wants from you, he's smart, he's scary, he's effective. And then you have him believe this totally wrong theory at the end, and it just makes him look kind of silly to me. And I just thought they just kind of undercut the Moss character by making him be so passionately wrong in this finale. But like I said, it's all there. It makes sense that they would believe it. But like I said, so to me, I'm not logging this as you did it wrong necessarily. I mean, again, where do I get off? But I'm just saying that for me, it lessened him in my eyes, having him kind of just buy into this so full-throated and vociferously, just to believe the wrong theory. And it's all there on the screen. He has no reason to doubt it. it's just like I said, it's a small thing. It just made him look. I'll say stupider either, but like it made him look. It lessened him for me. That's all. But I mean, again, I get what I'm supposed to be feeling. I just think that they might have underestimated the impact of having the characters be this wrong at the last minute. Like I don't know. The last minute changes kind of threw me off. But moving on, I want to talk now about the scene where Sally tells John everything. But I don't want to talk about the conversation itself necessarily, because I mean it's really Sally conveying all the information that we already knew, and it's also Sally kind of like accepting the reality for herself as well, which is why she breaks down in this scene. But I also want to talk about how it was filmed. I thought it was an interesting decision to only film Sally in the moment, and we only see the back of John's head. And granted, I noticed this. I'm also likely reading too much into it. Like, it's probably something simple, like he's a kid actor and he probably can't emote that well. And it's like, hey, can you look like this? And it's like, nah, I can't do it. And they're like, oh, fuck it, we don't need to show his head. But we need to show his face. But I thought it also worked as if to say that how John felt about Sally's information wasn't the important takeaway. It was the fact that Sally confessed outwardly, openly what she had done. And it was a Sally moment / breakthrough for that character. And that's where the focus needed to be, especially since she tries to bring Barry along that same path later. So, like, it can be looked at that way. I mean, of course it can. That's how I looked at it. But, like, it could have just been a thing where it's like, yeah, this kid's not good with face acting, so fuck it. Put the camera behind him. We're just looking at his back of his fucking head. But, like I said, she tries to lead Barry along the same path, and it ends up playing out the expected way. I don't know why I'm tripping all of my words here, but last week, I pointed out things went pretty poorly when characters made the wrong decisions. You know, bad decisions were punished. The best example of this is how Sally stopped herself from confessing to the cop, and just as the cop pulled away, Hank's guys abducted her and John. And in this episode, Sally confesses to what she did and ultimately ends up seemingly having a successful career teaching theater. And meanwhile, Barry twice rebukes the idea of confessing to what he did, and he ends up dead. But we'll get there. We'll get there just a little bit. I also really love the scene where Fuchs and his crew arrive at Hank's, what's it called? No-ho ball. Fuchs is kind of going easy on Hank at first until Hank says that Fuchs is weak, pathetic, and manipulative. And I like Stephen Root in this scene too. Stephen Root had a great episode, you guys. But I liked him in this scene too because his reaction was very much like, word? I'm weak and pathetic? All right, then. I'll leave right now, and we can be square if you admit you killed Cristobal, you fucked it up, you hate yourself for it, and the only way you can forget is by pretending to be someone else. I'm like, well, shit, goddamn. Fuchs really decided to cut through the bullshit and get straight to the point. Right? So, Hank does eventually admit to everything that Fuchs accused him of being the case, but I think being forced to face the pain of what he did might have been a little bit too much for Hank. I think that's why we kind of see him break in that moment. He tells Fuchs the deal is off. Fuchs shoots him, covers John just as everyone else starts shooting at one another. Everyone seems to die all in the span of like 2 seconds. I don't know why I love the guy who threw the grenade so far after the fact, but I really did like that guy. I wasn't initially a fan of Hank dying at all, but that shot of him dying holding the Cristobal statue's hand, it was fucking beautiful. I'm like, yeah, fuck, he can die then. If I can get that shot, fuck it, he can die. And I also love the carnage that Fuchs, a man who had just moments ago proclaimed himself as being a man who has no heart. I love that how he's shielding John as he leads him through the carnage in the aftermath of this shootout. There's a guy with his leg blown off, guy with his guts hanging out, none of which John has to see, because heartless-ass Fuchs is reuniting him with his father. And another scene I love, because on one hand, again, another great scene for Stephen Root, having Fuchs and Barry talk in this moment, when John comes and runs into Barry's arms and he sees Fuchs out there, not having them talk, on one hand, kind of feels like a cheap way out of writing the conversation, but it also felt right in the moment that those two only needed to share slight head movements to squash whatever shit they had going on. Like Barry looks down at John and back up at him as almost as if to say, like, you did this, like you're responsible for bringing him back. And Fuchs just kind of looks at him warmly and nods back. I think you might see like the little like start of a smile, and then he leaves. And I thought it was pretty heartwarming for what is essentially a wordless. Oh, there's no essentially. It is a wordless reconciliation. So the remaining 15 minutes of the episode or so are the aftermath of the carnage. As I mentioned earlier, Sally is the first to implore Barry to turn himself in. He says that's not what God wants for him. So when he wakes up in the morning, both Sally and John are gone. Barry goes to Gene's house looking for them, and Tom, who is Gene's lawyer, is the second person to tell him that he needs to turn himself in and confess what he's done. And after the longest pause in TV history, I love Barry's response simply being like, "So you sure you didn't see you sure you didn't see a kid in here?" I'm laughing at it now because like in retrospect it's funny, but like watching Barry kind of like do the mental calculus here of like you can see he's probably weighing every possible response and what could come out of that, and it was kind of almost terrifying. Not terrifying, that's extreme, but like it was unsettling to see a guy faced with what for most regular people seems like a pretty clear-cut decision and have to struggle with it that badly considering everything that he's done and everything that's at stake. At stake. I said that right? Yeah. But just as Barry announces he's going to turn himself in, Gene emerges. We don't see him, but he shoots Barry in the chest-shoulder range somewhere around here, and then finishes him off to the head as Barry utters the words that make up the episode title. He says, "Oh, wow." I feel like his "oh, wow," his surprise had to be at himself for being so blinded by trying to find his family that he failed to consider that Gene might be at Gene's house. But here we are again, though, looking at the consequences of one's actions. If Gene had simply done nothing, after undoubtedly hearing Barry state that he was going to confess, Barry would have confessed to what Barry had done, and Gene would have been off scot-free, and everything would have gone the way Gene would have wanted. Any movie made about Barry would paint Barry as the person that he genuinely was, and it would paint Gene as the victim. But instead, despite undoubtedly having heard Barry say that he was about to confess, Gene chooses to exact revenge and shoot Barry anyway. And now what ends up happening, he now goes to prison for both the murder of Barry, which he actually did, the murder of the love of his life, which he did not do, and we get treated to watching Barry's son watch a movie that portrays Barry as a hero. Like, look at consequences for your actions. If Gene had done the right thing, everything would have worked out. He made the wrong decision, and everything went poorly for him. But real quick on the movie. For starters, the level of dastardly that Gene is in this movie is just flat out hilarious. Like, he doesn't do anything funny, and it's funny. But secondly, I feel like they thought if he was British, that would inherently just make him more dastardly, and they were 100% correct. It absolutely worked. And then third, why did he shoot Barry like 17 times in slow motion with a completely straight, emotionless face? I loved everything about Gene in the movie. I know this actor too. I can't recall his name, and I'm sorry. You're not gonna see this, but if you do, by the 0.1% chance, I'm sorry I don't recall your name. But I am very familiar with this actor, and I thought he was great in this little brief movie scene. Sally, having accepted her wrongdoing, unlike Barry, is alive, having found success, I'm guessing, somewhere on the East Coast because of that snow. I love that shot, that establishing shot outside of the theater with the snow coming down. Beautiful shot. But she seems to be doing well, like I said, as a theater instructor. She's emotionlessly shooting down guys who ask her on dates. And then John, I wonder about John. He smiles watching the movie. I wonder if he's smiling because it makes him happy that his father will be remembered that way as opposed to the actual way, the actual person that he was, or the guy that Sally described to him when they were captured by Hank. I don't know what John's smile is for, but I think it's a nice ending. I thought this show was incredible. I will be signed on to watch any and whatever the fuck Bill Hader does in the future. What a great show. I love what this started as. I love even more what it became. Thank you, Bill Hader, for this. Thank you for all 17 of you who watched this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.